the people that are running for office that you want to be, we need to get them engaged so that they know they can change the game. And then you have to play to the things that they care about, like Earth, which we all should care about Earth.
Yeah.
but when you have people
and
that
realize it's round, it's a globe.
It is globe, and that global warming and all of those things that like science actually exists, right? Yeah. And so starting to play to those bases. So.
Hey, it's Breaking Barriers, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging podcast. We're here for real talk. We're not afraid to go there. And we want you to come away emboldened and energized to take action and make change.
We believe our diversity, our differences, when joined together by a common set of ideals, makes us stronger.
When I set out to help someone, it is my intention to do just that. I'm not trying to do anything other than meet somebody at their humanity.
Your world has changed, but your dreams shouldn't have to. That's why Kirkwood is your next best step. With affordable, flexible, and close-to-home options, now's a great time to start or finish your Kirkwood degree. Learn more at kirkwood.edu/findyourfuture. Displaced or discouraged at work? Kirkwood can help you learn a new skill or totally reinvent yourself for a brand new career. With so many flexible and affordable options, you can get back on track fast. Learn more at kirkwood.edu/findyourfuture.
What's happening, world? We're back again with another episode of Top Ranks Breaking Barriers, the D&B podcast brought to you by our 5-star presenting sponsor, Kirkwood Community College, as well as our silver sponsor.
So we got a new announcement here. They've changed their name.
Yeah.
So they're now Rising to Greatness, formerly known as PG Cares.
Awesome.
Rising to Greatness. I love that.
Yes,
I love that.
So they're really expanding beyond just baseball, but into all things.
Excited. We have to have them on and share more about that.
We do.
Yes.
And you said another episode. This is the episode.
The episode.
The anniversary episode.
It is. I'm Anthony Arrington.
Joy Briscoe.
And Nick Ford.
And, in 2023, we realized that we had a couple milestones. It is our 5-year anniversary with Top Rank.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
It's also Joy's
1 year anniversary. I'm still a toddler, but I'm coming along.
Really the most mature of the three of us, but yes.
Yeah. So we thought we'd take today really to talk about, not have a guest on, but really just reflect on what the heck has been going on for 5 years in this country, in this world, and how it's impacting us, because we know our work's needed.
It's so needed.
Yeah, and we've changed in our company over 5 years. We've modified from recruiting to culture, and still do the recruiting, but our reason why I think is evident even now in the world is why we made our shift. So
I agree. And when we talked about this, I thought I don't know if people even know us out there. We were so excited to get started that we started with guests because it just made sense. But I'm like, people need to even know us still, right? Like they need to know what we think about things and how we feel about stuff, and that we don't always agree. Like we don't always come for things from the same perspective. And so how we have those conversations, not only with guests, but internally too. So I'm excited about this episode. So. Yeah.
Well, it's unique because a lot of people don't know that we do have a lot of commonalities too, right? Yeah. I mean, we are a 100% disabled owned company.
Yeah,
we are.
We have two of us that are veterans, and we have two members that are Black community members, and one woman and one man, and over there, and it's brings our differences together, but it allows us to talk and bring out our output to even a better level, I think.
Yeah. Well, we have no agenda, but we know we got a lot of stuff on our mind.
Yes,
whatever it is. So as I think about the last 5 years, and I think about where the country has gone and where the world is, it's been really tough. And it's been really tough for people like us that are doing this work. And, I can, if I were to look at one thing that's really impacted the work that we do, it's the media. And we're in the media. Mm-hmm. And if I could look at over the past 5 years how the media has impacted us positively or negatively, that's driving me crazy. Because we are in a space now where people don't know people seem to not think they know what truth is. You think of, I know we talked a little bit offline about what's happening over at Fox. We know across the board, media tries to manipulate. Let's just be honest.
Sensation sells, right?
Across all lines.
Exactly.
But we reached a point now where we've got a media company that's being sued.
If anything, that's a lesson to other people. right? Like that you can't just say things anymore and just no consequence, right? If this is what my base wants to hear, then I'm going to say this and then, let the chips fall because I want to actually keep viewership up and things like that. Right. Like this is actually a precedent, right? Like things were getting so far, I think, that we needed someone to step in and say, you know what? We got to draw the line, and this will have financial costs for you right now if you lean into that. And like you said, that's on whichever side of the aisle you sit on. You need to be responsible and give us the news, man. I just want to know.
Yeah, I'm old school. I'm missing Walter Cronkite. It's like, this is the news. There's no opinion.
Right.
It's all facts. And it's all sourced independently and double checked and verified. And
so why can't we do that? Then why are we doing that?
Because it doesn't sell ratings. Huh? I mean, in my mind, had
some pretty sensational things.
Yes.
Like right now, and I didn't put this on our topics, but literally, I feel like the Pentagon came out and said, yep, there's UFOs. And we're not saying that they're not from outer space. There's literally UFOs. Like when you report that, I mean, that's pretty sensational. And so I don't always know why people have to then, well, they're Republican or they're leftist UFOs. Like, come on, let's just let them be UFOs.
Right.
Let's get away from
there's
that.
a comedian, Lewis Black, that I find him funny. He's pretty satirical type stuff, right? And I remember, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago when this kind of started really coming into the mainstream where he's like, my job's done. I can't make up stuff that's more funny than what's happening.
Exactly.
And when you think about social media, and I think, in some regards, the news media, you can see where they got there. Because it's like, if we weren't keeping people's attention, they'll just go to social media for news.
Right.
And we know there's lots of stuff that's not truthful on social media, right?
Right.
But the scary part is people take what they hear as truth.
Yes.
And in our world, we say, trust is given, not earned.
Right.
Boy, there's one spot where maybe it didn't work out so well that trust was given, not earned. Because, news media originally was like all facts. And at one point do you realize it's maybe not?
So let me ask you guys this. So when you think about what we do, because one of the things that we're dealing with in the media is our challenge around diversity and race relations and all kinds of other social issues that are impacting the three people that sit right here. But we also do this work. So how do we respond to that as a company when we know that there are falsehoods or we know that there's misinformation and it's impacting what we do? Data,
and I'd say getting to informed expression, right?
Yes.
So I have my political views on things and my own personal views, but I still listen to the other side too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I want to make an informed decision. I've never in my life voted, and I've changed my alliances maybe politically over my years as I've become more informed or things have changed in the parties. And I'm a strong third party or multi-party advocate.
Yeah, I agree.
But it seems like I've never voted, as far as I remember, ever like I just went in and said, check Democrat, check Republican. When I go to vote, I take that seriously for me.
Right.
And I actually research as much as I can about the individuals and make an educated decision on who's best represents my views.
Right. But here's the challenge, right? You're an informed person. You do that. Jimmy on the corner who just wakes up and goes to work at his 9-to-5 job and is trying to live, he's getting pinged with BS, with lies. And if you want to say, I don't like to say that both sides, let's just call it what it is. We know that an organization like Fox has been caught telling lies. And so how do we as neutral organizations make sure that we help promote truth and maintain a level of neutrality in the work that we do when we also have opinions? How do we manage that?
I also think, though, so in general, the people that we're voting for, we need to start holding them to a higher standard, right? Like, if you are running for any office, right, and you have a responsibility to educate your voters and the people that you would be voters, right? And so right now, I think you have one party that's saying a lot of things that aren't true. And then the other party, they might say some things that aren't true too, but they don't even speak to the needs and the concerns of people that they want to vote for them. So we're in a very kind of icky place right now politically. And I think that it definitely complicates our work because then you have us coming in and saying, hey, you need to care about equity, right? You need to care about equity. And you have one group saying, well, if I care about equity, did you see what happened to Silicon Valley Bank?
Yeah.
They went under because they cared about diversity, which is something that couldn't be further from the truth. Or there's case after case that would show that every other financial crisis we've ever been in was led us into there essentially by the dominant culture, which in the United States has been white culture, right?
Yes.
And so, but I don't have to, like, even when I just said that now, there's data that would back that up. So even I don't have to like argue it as a point. All I have to do is pull out and say, look, this is the data. So no, we can't say in this one instance this is the cause when every other recession, Great Depression, or everything, we don't even want to go down that slippery slope, right? We need to talk about how we fix it. And so I think that first off, the people that, I mean, yes, individually or as a company, we have our response, but I also think that people that are elected to represent the collective regard, which is something that we definitely believe in, they need to do a better job of making sure that the collective regard is able to have informed expression.
Right.
You know, it's funny, Joy. One of my favorite phrases you use, like we hear like people saying, you know, we can't teach CRT in schools.
Yeah.
And you're like, we're not talking about, you know, unicorns and dragons. It's all make believe. It's like,
I'm not doing it.
We hear stuff and for us in the space, we're like, that's not what's happening.
That's not, yeah, it's not happening.
So how is this such a big topic and polarizing people in our country when it's not even really happening? It's all about
was taught in K-12.
No, it's all about, we're going to use this phrase because we know it triggers people one way or the other.
Right.
And just to sell our product, our news media. Well, I was just saying, I took a college class recently at Co when I was going back to school, and it was about news media and what their roles were. And one of their roles used to be what Joy said to. It held politicians accountable. It held our government accountable. Yep. I don't see that.
I don't see that anymore.
You don't see media holding our government accountable?
I don't see the news media holding. I mean, there's bits and pieces where they do.
Yeah.
But I see that they hold the other side accountable.
Yes. There's clear alignment with most of the channels. If you watch one of the channels, you can very easily see who they're aligned
Absolutely.
for, right? And so getting back to, again, we use the example like, there's UFOs. Can you just tell me that there was UFOs out there, right? Like, give me the news, give me the facts, give me the data or whatever have you. And then our role, or because in our other hats, Anthony, like in your other hat as a community activist, you do hold people very accountable for oppressive things that they might do out in the community.
Yeah. So how do we get to the point where, again, I'm thinking about the last 5 years, that we became so divided that we now have laws on the book and legislation going galore in this country that's telling us we can't teach certain things in school. Like we can't, Nick, you were bringing it up. We can't. And we just saw a post the other day. I think someone posted the other day about our own state, about our educators in the state of Iowa, and one of the legislative files that says you can't talk about race. And the legislators were saying, and we'll just use slavery as an example. They were saying, the folks that are anti talk about Black history in schools were saying, we can talk about, for example, that there was people in this country that were enslaved, but when you start asking people how they feel about that, now you're crossing the line. Where does that come from? How did we get to this point in 5 years that we can't?
I don't think it's been 5 years. I think it's been building. Well, yes. I think we've seen the oh my gosh moment in the last 5 years, but I think it's been building, right? So with ratings and social media and more of the internet and things like that. You know, a lot of people say the internet's great, social media's great because people are more informed. Doesn't mean they're more well informed, right? So I look at that, but then I also think so we both come from military backgrounds, right? And we're taught that yes, you obey orders, but you have a questioning attitude. Yes. You have a questioning mentality. I saw, with all everything we know that's going on in Florida, a veteran down there that had been going through my program through nuclear power, and Rickover, who kind of started our program, Admiral Rickover, was like, have a questioning attitude. He goes, I want my kids taught everything, whether they agree with it or not, because then they're going to start having questioning attitudes, and they're going to have critical thinking ability.
Well, and then what's so this is me, because sometimes you have to show people that there's no line to that, right? Like, so, and this is it. I've been a lifelong, for the most part, Democrat supporter. or whatever have you, I don't think that they show up as strong as they need to. And so for me, someone needed to say, oh, then we're not teaching about Christopher Columbus in school.
Yes.
And so then, well, wait, then we're going to teach all truths, right? So if we can acknowledge that the things that I grew up learning about Christopher Columbus, now a lot of them aren't true.
Yes.
Yet they're still taught in school. You can't say that there's no way that they should be able to talk about slavery. And it should, if you are human, you should feel a way when you hear that. If you are human, regardless of whether you're pink, brown, you should feel a way about the enslavement of other human beings.
Yes.
And you can't erase that. And so someone recently was talking about Germany and the Holocaust. And over there, if you try to not acknowledge their history, you are in trouble. Like something big will happen.
How do we prevent it from happening again? If people don't feel bad about something, how do we stop that from happening? I mean, history tends to repeat itself anyway.
It does.
Right.
It does.
But in my mind, this is partly why.
Joy, you said something that triggered me, and it was that you've historically been a lifelong Democrat or what have you, but one of the things that you've observed is that when we think about our ability to coexist and be able to move forward together, we have to call out the differences and challenges and use Christopher Columbus. You were saying, why don't the Democrats say, well, we can't teach this? I guess what I'm saying, are you saying that they don't fight back enough?
No.
Tell me,
Let's
elaborate on that.
And let me say, very interesting, because I'm military, right? So I have this slew of beliefs that range from extremely left to somewhat moderate. I just have a different belief just because of my upbringing. But I do also think that one thing that's been, Fox is in trouble now, but one thing that they were able to do from a marketing standpoint, and you all know that that's my background, is we're going to have a message and everybody's going to say the message, and then the political base that we support say the message. And now, did it go too far? Yes, but I haven't seen Democrats be able to do that, or even really support the base of people that help keep getting them reelected, which a lot of times like black women, and we aren't. I mean, so we're not being supported in that.
It's an example of messaging, and I think if we can say that, whether you think good or bad about a Donald Trump, there's a genius in messaging and there's a genius in marketing. And if it's used for the wrong reason, I always say this, I always used to say this to people. There are evil people in the world, but they're very smart. Like, I don't ever take away somebody's intelligence, but how do you use your intelligence? And some people are using their intelligence for malice or ill intent. Including their marketing genius.
And again, the thing that just frustrates me is, and again, like one of my mentors, he is a Republican. And when he explained to me, like, why, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of got it, right? Like, he was like, Joy, I believe in economics, and Republicans believe heavily in economics. So that part, because I think, especially as black people, we need more emphasis and focus on economics. That's how we reduce disparity and all the other things. And so, like I said, I do have that belief as well. But yeah, it's I think that they need to play the game better. And I'm kind of with Nick now on, is it time for more parties? Because I think it is, because I think you get these media outlets and people that are so polarized. We need some things that say, I'll take a little of that, and I'll take a little of that. I'll take a little of that, and I'll take a little of this. And we're going to create this, and this is what I'm going to do. And I'm just wondering, okay, segue into another question, right? Is it the young people coming up that are going to be able to lead us to do that? There's this big conversation that Biden is too old to run again. So how do we think about that?
Yeah. And it is young people making change.
Personally, I don't care how old someone is if they can do the job.
Yep.
What I'm really tired of is this. It seems like the last 5-10 years of, I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils.
Yes.
So are there people out there that won't vote for him that will normally vote for someone of that party because of his age? And I think you're right. I think the younger people there's a gap there.
There's a gap.
And not saying he's perfect either.
Right.
I mean, he's got his own idiosyncrasies as well, we'll call them.
Exactly.
So
the 90 crack
here's
epidemic.
What's funny about this.
Exactly. So,
mass incarceration.
Yeah.
Right.
So
here's what's funny about this. We go back to marketing. Who's pushing that age gap? Because think about this. Let's go back to the the last election, how popular was Bernie Sanders?
Very.
How Bernie's old, not to me, but according to
he's old to us too,
old, right? But according to us, he's old, right?
Yeah.
So why was Bernie so popular? And we have this issue with Biden. Yeah. I believe it goes back to what you were saying. It's being marketed this way by those who have adverse feelings towards Biden. Now, we're in the space of equity. I'm with you, Nick. Like, if you can do the job, I don't care how old you are, and I'm
how young,
you are, right? Because for everybody that says there's age, then there's experience, right? That whole conversation. And so, I'm just trying to figure out where did this where did this push about his age come from? And I believe it's being marketed.
And it's from the other side, yeah.
Right. And it's.
Well, I'll say, if we're being honest, because that's what we do here, we break barriers. There has been some interviews that I watched. One of the last shootings, I believe his mic was on before it was supposed to be on. And it should have been a sober moment, right? A somber moment. Like, and he was talking to somebody in the audience about like ice cream, or it was just like, okay, his mic it's a hot mic, right?
Yeah.
But even if it wasn't a hot mic in that moment when I was preparing to do that, that wouldn't have been my conversation or tone. No. Like even the pivot from talking to kids about ice cream to we're talking about another mass shooting.
Yeah.
It just was
irresponsible.
like,
well, but again, in my mind, it's not because of his age, though. It just might be capability.
Yes.
Right.
Which again, if he's capable and he's that old,
right,
let him do it. If he's truly not capable, that's right. That's a whole different issue.
Now I've heard the arguments too about substance versus style. You know, is it because it's
Grandpa Joe, right?
Style,
Grandpa Joe,
huh?
Grandpa Joe,
Grandpa Joe, right?
Grandpa Joe.
And I remember having this conversation. I was in a debate. I'll call it an argument with one of my best friends.
I love how you switched that quick, partner. I saw that. Debate.
But one of my best friends, we was talking about this, and it became clear to me that it wasn't so much about his age, because as I started asking my friend questions, it was more about his style. He was saying, man, he was in front of the camera one day, and I was thinking, man, I don't know if he took his medicine. And then one day I was watching him, and man, he was stuttering so much, and I was like, did you know he grew up with a stuttering problem?
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm not here to defend Joe, because Joe has done some stupid stuff, like all politicians do it. But it became clear to me that it wasn't the number; it was more about Grandpa Joe, I guess. And
then if not Joe, who? Not DeSantis. Like, if not,
that's what I'm getting tired of saying. If not who, because there's brilliant people in this country.
Yeah.
Some of them have run and they don't get a shot.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. But I even think of it like, and this is where I poke at social media. Like if you look back, like we'll talk about basketball for a second, right? Big debate: Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, others, right? Mm-hmm. How would have those players done? And you think about historically, like some of the things players did, or you even go back to baseball, Babe Ruth, some of the stuff he did. Can you imagine with social media?
Oh yeah,
how bad their lives would have been?
Yeah,
the way it is now. I mean, you can't do anything now without you make a mistake, it's everywhere.
Oh no, I'm military. We're military. So people you've probably gotten this before too, where people are like, you should run for office, and I'm like, I still go to Cardi B you guys know this.
Yeah,
I'll still go to Cardi B concerts. I still like rap music. It's just too much. And I think that social media has taken away the ability for people to even just be them. There's no grace with social media. You're not getting any grace with that. And so not for me, man. I like to be.
And yet somehow career politicians still get away with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where's that balance between, as politicians, being you and being a politician, whatever that means? Right. Well, what does that mean, right?
The balance that preachers have that have marital fit. No, just that's another show.
Real talk.
That's another
Real
show.
Talk. Real talk.
Another show. All the other preachers that we know of that are like
family counselors that have bad families.
Exactly.
I mean,
teachers dating students.
It's always funny because I know people have asked, are you gonna run for office? And I'm like, I'm too honest.
Yeah,
I'm probably too honest for.
Which is it's sad that that's how we view it, but it is how like I view it. Like it's hard to be your authentic self. Although I will say that like when I talk to my daughter who is on the cusp of like millennial and Gen Z, they see things very differently and they I'm inspired by them because they tend to connect more with people being the truest version of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And Roland Martin, I was listening to an interview he did on the Breakfast Club like a couple of days ago because
Been watching that on the
Oh my gosh, it was so good. And so he said that, you know, if millennials and Gen Z flex their voting power, they could change the game. And so I'm like, again, the people that are running for office that you want to be, we need to get them engaged so that they know they can change the game. And then you have to play to the things that they care about, like Earth, which we all should care about Earth.
Yeah.
but when you have people
and
that
realize
like,
it's round, it's a globe.
It is globe, and that global warming and all of those things that like science actually exists, right? And so starting to play to those bases. So I think.
Well, you know what's funny? You know, when you talk about global warming, we always talk about, you hear people, we're going to destroy the planet. Mm-hmm. Oh, the planet will survive. Yeah. It's us that aren't going to survive. Exactly. It's like, that's what people need to start thinking about. I mean, it's almost like you're self-eradicating us as a population. The Earth will survive.
Yes.
The Earth probably truly doesn't care if there's plastic on it or if there's no trees left.
That's a great point. And
it's
maybe that's what we need to say is like, so the things that we need to survive, that's going to be gone.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if there's no air here, the Earth will go on.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Until the sun finally goes. But
it is our youth, you know, when you hear your daughter, it's our youth. And I think about every major movement in the country or in the world has typically been led by young people. Yeah, we have this challenge right now in our society where those young voices are trying to be shut down. You know,
you're lazy, you're uninformed, right. you're not resilient.
Right.
But we talked about this with your uncle, right? About you know, when he marched back in the 60s and 70s, he was younger than we are now.
Right. But it's interesting that we're seeing laws and policies and legislation, and again, we always try to separate politics and the social world, and we just can't. In my opinion, it's just really tough.
We have though, Anthony. If you think about our grandparents' age, what did they not talk about?
Politics.
Right.
And what else? Religion and right. I mean,
do you think that's
we need to have those talks? I think we need to have those talks, and I think now people are ingraining their ways back to the old, like we don't talk about it. Yeah. Right. And we haven't learned how to talk about it.
Right. That's what we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We're conditioned, and these laws are because young people are talking about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think about when I was young and growing up, and I remember asking my mom one day, like, how did you all like even feel when those laws were passed? Reaganomics, right? Yeah. When they cracked to cocaine, which was targeting Black and brown people, right? Mm-hmm. Because disproportionately, they were the ones getting caught with crack,
right?
And you get way less time for cocaine. And I just remember, like, my family, who would have been adults at that time, I don't even know that they realized, because they were surviving, that all of that was happening, right, that was going to then lead to mass incarceration and all the other things. And so I think some of that culture of we don't talk about it, you know, like, I don't know, I still have a little one. So like, we don't talk about Bruno, which is like, well, you probably know what that is, right? Like that whole, we don't talk about Bruno culture really allows for things to fester and just kind of messed up a lot of, not even kind of, I mean, it just really impacted Black men, Black women and brown women for generations to come. And so I think we do have to have those conversations. But like Nick said, how do you do it? Like, how do you say, oh, I'm a lifelong Republican and I'm a lifelong Democrat, but now we're going to come together and be able to have productive conversations. Right. And we do it, right? Like among us, we do it. Like one of my good friends who's a nonprofit leader has one of the biggest hearts ever. Right. She historically up until now has been a Republican. You know what I mean? And so, and that's cool. And we support each other in all the things. But I think as a society, we've gotten away from that.
I think it's that defensive mentality. It's such an us them that having that conversation means that you did something wrong to me. Right. And so when we talk about, you know, if we talk about slavery, if we talk about Jim Crow, if we talk about, you know, the women's movement, if we talk about LGBTQ and people that are getting silences, we have this generational gap where folks that are used to not talking about it, now that we're talking about it, the conversation seems to, or there's this belief that it's about them, that it's a personal thing.
And they're making all the voting decisions.
And they're making all the voting decisions.
So they're saying we don't want to talk about Bruno and closing down those opportunities.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny too, like we talk about this a lot, but we also see a lot in our space where if I'm a disabled veteran and we're talking about about civil rights and black rights, why should I be offended that we're also talking about that? That doesn't mean I'm getting left out.
Right.
We see a lot of that too going on. I saw an article the other day. I think it might have been Congressman put something on there. And they're like, well, what about Latino rights? What about Asian rights? He's like, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about this right now.
I'm talking about.
It doesn't mean that doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that's not a problem too.
Yeah.
But right now we're talking about this. So let's focus on this. Let's have this win.
Exactly.
And it's like, I mean, Black Lives Matter come out, all lives matter. Well, yet no one's saying they don't.
Right.
But
who's being killed? Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, kind of close. Someone said that to me once, and I think you were at lunch with me, Nick. That Navy veteran made a comment to me, and I don't think it was a saying. Yeah. So I'm paraphrasing, but he said that you could go to somebody and someone had said, my mother just died. And you could say, I feel bad for your mother, but a lot of mothers are dying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You would never do that.
You would never do that. Or you wouldn't say, well, my mother died once, so what? Get over it. You have that attitude too. And it's just like, it's not, that's not what it's about.
Right.
Yeah, I super agree. Speaking of which, so we talked a little bit about the media. How did you all feel about that? Tucker Carlson got fired. And then Don Lemon, and I'm going to mess up his last name, Don Lemon, he got fired too. And so how do we feel like that? Like, is that, are those results of what we're talking about, that the media has gone too far and so now the system is finally somewhat trying to correct itself? Or is it really that Tucker Carlson talked about the bigwigs that got at Fox and so they got him out of there? Like, what do we feel about the firing of those?
I feel like they were both damage control to an extent.
Yeah.
So like I did an article on LinkedIn about Don Lemon and what he got was enough with what he said. And it was kind of like an all lives matter type comment, sort of, right? Someone was talking about ageism and he's like, well, what about, something else? Because he's older, right? And something happened and now he's gone. So
Great example though, that because you are of the minoritized population or global majority, that doesn't mean you're not.
Doesn't mean you're not counting for what you say.
Exactly.
And the way he phrased it was probably not the greatest. Right. And I think in Tucker's case, I think it's because of the lawsuit and other things and all the focus on them. And he's a big in the light person.
Yeah. Right.
And I think it was damage control. And that happens a lot. I mean, we see it on ESPN even.
Yeah.
Or we sometimes just do the budget cuts and we don't see it. Or even when we're doing assessment, we have people saying, well, people are getting let go. We don't know why. Well, some of you can't say why.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there could be litigation going on we don't even know about.
Definitely.
But I think I feel like it's damage control.
It is. I thought the timing was interesting between I don't know, between Don and Tucker.
You guys think it was the Illuminati?
Yeah. Something like
was it the Illuminati? Like, you're going to get rid of one, we're going to get rid of one.
Having said that, total damage control. Yeah. No impact. And you have to ask yourself, why wasn't Tucker fired before? Like I said, we all saw, and this is where it becomes a point where we got to be honest about truth. You can have a political opinion all you want, but we've crossed the line about truth. And so, straight up cover.
Well, we talk about that in our work, right? When you put the job before your people, right? And they literally were doing that with Tucker Carlson. He was their biggest star, right?
It's not like he's going to be broke. I mean, he go have his own podcast or Sirius channel.
He's probably going to do all the things.
Do all those things.
He might even make more money.
But I always think about what we started with, right? Is that what the news is? Or is that just more fluff that has nothing to do with the news and it's about one side's opinion?
But it blows me away how much impact one individual can have like that. Like,
people believe him.
People believe him. And so to your point, Joe, as you talked about earlier, how do we combat the Tuckers? Well, you can pull them off the air. That's a cover move, but they're
sort of.
Right?
You can pull off that news channel. You pull off
launching pad to another launching pad because he's going to launch somewhere else. So it's not Tucker. Well, it's not Tucker. He's a bigot. It's not Don Lemon. He was a misogynist. You're wrong for what you did. You need to be held accountable. But the question is the people who allow it.
Yeah.
So I am trying to ask ourselves, how do we not focus so much on Tucker?
The system.
It's us.
How do we focus on the system?
It's us people.
It's your neighbor next door who's watching Tucker at night. He keeps Tucker on TV.
Yeah.
Right. And how do we deal with that? I think about this my mind goes crazy with this stuff. Like,
you stay up too much at night, like I do.
Stay up too much at night.
I think we all are like, and I'm an early riser too, so it's really.
You just get up early and start thinking about it. We're up till 2 a.m. and you're getting up at 5 a.m. to do it.
Well, another thing though, I think it matters too because even information is so important, and so like even there was another mass shooting again in Texas. And so I'm so tired of this, and it like literally broke my heart. I was talking to another mentor of mine the other day, and he was talking about his granddaughter and how she had like an emotional moment because now when they go to school, they have to worry about, are they going to be able to come home? And that's a pressure we didn't grow up with, right? Like you go to school, you eat your Fruit Loops in the morning. Every once in a while there might be a fight or two, whatever.
Fist fight.
Right,
fist
exactly.
Fight, some shoving, yeah.
But now, you know, they have this pressure of like, is somebody going to like shoot up the school? And as a society, we're not really making moves to like protect our young people, right? And so like, what do we think about that? Like, how do you think we could, you know, people feel that if there's any type of laws that are officially put in place, well, then that's impacting my right to bear arms, right? And so, again, I'm military, so most of the men around me, and not even everybody around me, had guns. They kept them in the armory, right? Like, and they was responsible about them or whatever have you. So it was never even a big deal to me because they, again, but no one needs like these assault rifles and things like that people have. And so what are your thoughts, Anthony?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'm a gun owner. Yeah. I'm a lawful gun owner.
Exactly.
Well, I guess in Iowa, I don't need a license or a law anymore. I can just have one. My problem is we're not honest about the economic and the politicizing of gun control.
Yes.
Right. Let's just be freaking honest about it. We want these gun companies to make more guns, and so we have to sell more guns, and so we have to relax laws too. This is Anthony's opinion, to make guns easier to get, because there's no excuse for why I have to have more policies and procedures and pay more money to drive a car, to drink a beer.
That's a good one.
Than I do to shoot a killing machine. And again, I'm not anti-gun.
Right.
I'm anti-protect ourselves, but we have gone off the rails with what it means to be a gun owner and what it means to take guns away from people. And by putting laws on the books, the assumption is, again, and I'm going to go back to your marketing 101 conversation earlier, it's being marketed as a cultural war. And the more it keeps getting pushed, and I don't know that those who resist it are pushing back enough.
Nope, they're not.
I'm not a turn the other cheek guy.
Yeah, see, I have an interesting take on this because most people that do these mass murders look like me, color-wise, right? So and we've talked about this, Anthony, if I truly thought that gun control worked the way they talk about doing it, and that if no kid would ever get shot again, I'd turn every gun I own in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I wouldn't even bat an eye if I thought it would work. The problem is even that doesn't work. Now,
Statistics show
it's better. It's better.
I'm a number person.
It's better.
So if we can, and when you think about it from the sense of these aren't just numbers, these numbers are attached to people. So statistics show that lives are saved when we have more gun control.
I agree. Yeah. But it won't eradicate.
Oh, no.
It won't eradicate, right?
Absolutely.
No. But where do you draw the line? Like, do we make the schools like prisons where no one can get in, no one can get out? That doesn't make me feel good either, to keep our kids safe.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
And a lot of it goes back to my mind to we have failed as a country, not on gun control, but we failed on mental health.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
All the way.
So badly. Yeah. And again, if I want to go kill someone with a gun and I can't get one legally, I know I can get one illegally.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, I get the gun control statistically shows it improves things.
Yes.
Until we actually do it. I mean, Chicago has strict gun control laws, and there's still a lot of shootings in Chicago. So, well, I agree that there needs to be more strict things. It needs to be better than the opposite way we're going now, where you just go buy a gun and that's it.
Right.
But we need other things other than just gun control. That's the problem. It's like, here's what I see with the two parties. You have one that's pro-life, one that's not. Right. But then one is, death penalty, one not. They just fight over it. It's like they pick one straw and they we pick this part, and they nitpick it.
Exactly.
But to Joy's point, there's data and there's lies behind that data. And you're both making good points. It's a multi-pronged approach.
Yes.
But we're not getting, and I'm not even going to say that word, I'm going to say we're not getting to the easiest things that can be solved quickly.
The low-hanging fruit. You don't want to say
there's a phrase I wasn't going to say.
Get away from that.
But we are. It's low-hanging fruit. It really is.
Low-hanging fruit, but I know there's a historical connotation behind that I'm trying to avoid those words. But there's easy things. And why are those so hard?
Money.
Yeah. Money, lobbyists.
Yes. Yes.
You know, you get the people that say the Constitution was written, and you get the ones that say it has the Second Amendment in it. It means guns no matter what.
Plus, we're not, like, to me, I don't know of another document that's ever been created that wasn't revised based on what
it's allowed to be revised.
And
it's in there. People back then said we knew things are going to change.
Exactly.
So anyone that says, "Well, we didn't have these guns then,"
right?
But we do now. It's like the whole thing. Like, you know, we protect with, you know, our protected classes, right?
Exactly.
How hard would it have been to add sexual identity in there, or gender identity?
Right.
Exactly.
Why is that?
Why is there?
Why do you think that?
First of all, why is it needed?
Right. Oh, good question.
But it is. In reality, it is.
Yeah.
Put it in there.
Right.
Put it in there.
Now we don't have these debates.
Why do you think we don't?
Because, again, it's politics.
Yeah, politics.
Yep.
I mean, the majority of our country, when it comes to things like gay marriage,
right,
don't have a hang up about it.
They don't.
Yeah. No. I think if we're being brutally honest, and you're right, it's about politics. And so I'm of the 5 whys, and so why is it about politics? And because politics are ran by certain individuals. Well, why is it ran by certain individuals? We continue to peel the onion back. We have to admit that we are a country that was built on a philosophy of white supremacy. And that doesn't mean that you as a white person are bad, right?
Right.
You're one of my best friends.
Right.
We're in business together.
But it's a reality.
But it's a reality. You can talk about that, and we have to have more of us that can talk about that. And that's where I think there's so much resistance to that those in power will do whatever it takes to resist that. And this is where it becomes with the laws, policies, procedures to resist the voice. And I think young people are going to change that.
I think they are too. And we're also, I want to say too, I was talking to, somebody the other day, and we were talking about, so you had 2020 and everything was Black Lives Matter. And then prior to that, it was the Me Too movement, right? And so whenever you have like these big progressive movements, so to speak, and I'm not saying progressive from the party sense of it.
Right.
I'm saying when you're moving forward in areas where you need to that impact humanity, right?
Right.
Changing moments.
And human rights.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Then you also typically see a strong response, right? Mm-hmm. President Obama was elected. Whether you love or hate President Obama, but he was elected, right? Our first Black president, right? Then you see all these policies and things pass that are a lot of times in response to the progress of 2020, the movement of the Me Too movement, the election of the first Black president, right? Like, and so we're now in this moment that is this heavy response to, we're going to use CRT to attack it. My thing though is, I don't know how those who have a voice and play a role, which again, if we got a 2-party system right now, so would have been the Democrats. I don't know how they did not respond as strongly in kind.
Right.
Because, you know, like I said, I would have been like, oh, I'm not going to debate you about CRT. It's never been debate. It's never been taught in K-12.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not going to. If we're talking about things that don't exist, fine. I'm a billionaire. Right? Like, let's just talk about a bunch of things.
Hey, we're going out. We're going out. We're going out. We're going to, where are we going to this week? Where are you taking us?
And so I don't understand why there was never any power structure in place where they were like, oh no, like our talking points is that we're not going to waste our constituents' time and money, right? Because we elect you to talk about the things that impact our life, not to talk about things that aren't currently in place, right? And so there were things that they could have done and said and leaned into that we wouldn't even be here now.
Right.
And so I'm a little...
Well, I'll take it beyond anything that has to do with the race issues out there, right? Yeah. What happened on 9/11 in our country? 9/11, what happened in our country? Everyone wanted to something. We all unified. It's all about, let's go take care of who did this to us.
Sure was.
Now, whatever happened after that was handled all different ways, but we all had this big patriotic moment. How long did that last?
Right.
That's true.
A hot second.
Every time one of these things happen in our country, it's like, oh yeah, that happened. We moved on. Yeah. It lasts. You get this peak for a little bit, and then it's gone. Exactly. The next thing. And that's where I go back to the news media is so many next things.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So this is where we are needed, folks. And this is where we got to keep doing what we do.
Exactly.
Y'all want to keep talking? We got to wrap up. We could talk all day.
We could do like 20
We could
of these
really
episodes.
do this all day.
Yeah.
Oh no, it is about time. So
yeah, you know, it's been 5 years with 1 year with Joy on board. I'm just happy to as we kind of close up here, I'm happy to be doing this work with you all, and I'm happy for what we're doing, and I'm glad we're able to have this platform to kind of continue to discuss these important items unapologetically in the way that we approach them. I know that we probably say things on these shows that people aren't happy about, but we say what we say, and I think that's important. So
it's okay not to be happy with it.
It's
Absolutely.
okay.
Sometimes you say something we're not happy with, but we still communicate with you and talk to you and try to get to it.
Exactly. My mentor says is if everyone's happy with you, it means you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
So I guess we're doing our job, right? Making sure we have critical conversations from different viewpoints too.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So any final thoughts from you guys before we bow out? That's my final thought.
I'm looking forward to the next 5 years. I know we talk about our vision is that, someday we don't have a job because it's no longer needed, but we realistically probably not in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Hopefully in our kids.
Yeah. Hope so.
Thoughts from you, Joy?
No, I'm excited. I just appreciate both of you. It's been an amazing year. I think sometimes it's went by so quick that when we look back on like the things we've been able to do, it's like, wow, we've been really able to make some impact. And so excited to keep that going forward and moving forward. So,
well, let's keep having these conversations and let's keep being real. Let's just keep being real online. So I'm enjoying. You want to take us out, Nick, with our sponsors here?
Big shout out again to our 5-star presenting sponsor, Kirkwood Community College. We appreciate your partnership on this podcast. Also, big thanks to our Silver Diversity sponsor, now Rising to Greatness, formerly PG Cares. We also want to give thanks to our friends at Breaking Barrier Supporters Community Savings Bank and Tyler Links and Barnes DDS, one of Anthony's big supporters this last week.
Oh, thank you to Tyler Lincoln Barnes for saving my tooth.
We'd love to hear from you. Hit us up. Send us your questions, your comments, suggestions. If you think you might be a great guest on the podcast, send us some information there too. Okay. Info at topranktalentsolutions.com. That'll soon be info at toprankculture.com. Our new website. We can still get to topranktalentsolutions.com, but also toprankculture.com is a little easier to type in on the fingers. So other than that, just again, thanks. And
all right.
Other than that, we're ready to go and hope you have a great day. And
love you all. Love you all. All right. Keep breaking barriers, folks.
Yep. Keep breaking barriers.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. Take care.
Advancing equity is not a one-year project. It's a generational commitment.
There are too few people in the world willing to be the domino, too few people willing to take that fall.